Dear representatives of the media, dear citizens, good morning. Allow me to announce our today's press conference where the Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia, Mr. Zaev, will be speaking at the new EU ambassador in our country, Mr. David Geer. You may take the floor, Mr. Prime Minister. Dear Excellency, Ambassador Geer, dear media representatives, it is a special pleasure that today's working day I am starting with our first joint meeting with the newly appointed EU Ambassador to the Republic of North Macedonia, His Excellency Mr. David Geer. We have had indeed a cordial and fruitful meeting. We'll have to meet more frequently because we have a lot of work to do. We've discussed the priorities of our government in the coming 4-year term of office. The new government has been elected with full legitimacy and directions confirmed by the citizens in free, fair and European organized election. We have defined the path towards the future, towards the EU, together with the EU and the friendly nations there. It's about an irreversible process, and I wish to express the extreme pleasure with the draft of the negotiation framework proposed by the European Commission, and I hope that it will be successfully completed in Brussels at the General Answer Conference on the 4th of December, after which we'll be expecting the first intergovernmental conference in December. It is our intention to activate the fast track of negotiations under chapters with the full agreement and unconditional fulfillment of our EU agenda. As regards our part, we won't allow for reasons for new postponements. For us, it is accessible to take the new principle of reversibility of the process if degradation of the democratic ambience in our country takes place. However, I underline that our solemn commitment remains and will be not to allow to happen on behalf of the citizens of Macedonia. What is happening are the signals of our EU partners that the bilateral issues should not be stones of disagreements between our negotiations. With Bulgaria, we have a joint commitment and duty to improve our good neighborly relations, our mutual cooperation and build friendship. The good spirit and friendship arising from the friendship agreement and good neighborly relations agreement and collaboration focuses us on strengthening the relations between the two countries and respect the right to self-determination and self-identification as primary European values. Therefore, I wish to underline the support we've received from the predecessors of the Ambassador Geer that have presented great inspiration, corrective and advice for the governments of our country, and I hope to see this relationship continuing in the future. The Ambassador Geer is starting his term of office at a time when we are facing a planetary crisis without any precedents. Our societies had to reorganize quickly and be creative in passing measures that will protect our democratic order of living, the modern pillars of economy, and certainly health of the people and citizens. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the new Ambassador Geer for his support and assistance that North Macedonia has received and is receiving from our partners in the EU in the fight against COVID-19. In spite of the health and economic crisis that is concerning our country, as well as the other countries across the world, the government I'm leading will remain fully focused on creating the conditions for a new cycle of a dynamic economic growth, sustainable development, efficient legal state and modern institutions, modern education and stable society, as well as internal cohesion. We are on the path where we cannot return from. We've spent too much time on conflicts instead of resolving such conflicts. The benefits from our work can be felt by the current and will be lived by the future generations at every step, at every chapter open and every issue resolved, we are working on improving the quality of livelihood of all citizens. Dear Ambassador, once again, I wish you a cordial welcome and I hope for very good, fruitful cooperation. Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. Now we'll hear the address of the EU Ambassador to our country, Mr. Geer. You may take the floor, Mr. Ambassador.
Prime Minister, for the very warm welcome. And can I congratulate you also on your recent appointment and the formation of the new government. The term of the new government, as well as my term as the head of the EU delegation to North Macedonia, begin at a time when we are all looking forward to the formal start of the country's EU accession negotiations at the Intergovernmental Conference. Let me recall that for the country to be at this stage of its EU integration process, it means that already a lot has been achieved, both when it comes to reforms, but also in terms of solving bilateral disputes with its neighbours, where we recognise that North Macedonia is an example for the entire region. Our discussion today with the Prime Minister naturally focused on the priorities that we would see the country further progress on in its path towards EU membership. On my side, I recalled the importance of continuing the reform on all fronts, and in particular in the area of rule of law, which, as you know, is part of the fundamentals clusters for the negotiations under the new enlargement methodology, to be opened first and to be closed last. This means that the country will have to maintain a steady pace of effort in the area of rule of law until the very end of negotiations. At the same time, I stressed the importance of developments in other sectors, upholding democracy and defending human rights, protecting the environment and forging a vibrant and sustainable economy are not mere parts of the accession negotiation process. They are crucial elements for bringing about a tangible, positive change in the lives of citizens. Progress in these areas would mean bringing the EU into North Macedonia, which is essentially what the accession process is all about. I also recalled the importance of good neighbourly relations, which represent an important part of the enlargement process, as well as the stabilisation and association process. And it's important that the Prespa Treaty and the Treaty on Good Neighbourly Relations continue to be implemented in good faith by all. Ultimately, the EU accession process is a paramount task, which requires mobilisation of all political forces, and indeed the entire society behind it. And therefore we look to the government and to all political forces, all parts of society, to engage constructively. From my side, I can assure you, Mr. Prime Minister, that you will find the EU delegation and its dedicated staff by your side, continuing helping with resources and expertise, all in the name of our common goal to see North Macedonia become part of the EU. Finally, we also discussed the issue of COVID-19. In recent months, the EU gave a practical illustration of the value of solidarity by providing considerable assistance to tackle the pandemic in this country, even as our own member states were grappling with its effects and continue to do so. Let me assure you that we will continue to provide assistance both to the healthcare sector but also to the economy. We will stay by your side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. Now we can proceed with the media questions. There is time for 4 questions, 2 to the Ambassador and 2 to the Prime Minister. We are starting with the 24 News colleague. I represent the 24 News TV. I have 1 question to the Euro Ambassador. First of all, welcome to our country, Euro Ambassador Geer. In addition to Bulgaria, which other member states have remarks to the negotiation framework of the European Commission, and to what extent up until now bilateral disputes have been included in the negotiation frameworks as practice for the remaining EU member states? Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the welcome, and thank you for the question. I'm sure you'll understand, first of all, that I'm not in a position to talk about the internal discussions that take place in the Council on this issue. Let's look at the important issues. The decision to start accession negotiations with North Macedonia was taken in March. This was a historic development. Thereafter, the European Commission has presented the draft negotiation framework. This is being discussed by member states who will need to agree on it, and then it will be adopted at the first intergovernmental conference. And we very much hope that this will take place as soon as possible. And then we need to roll up our sleeves and move forward on the reform process, accelerating the efforts that have been made already towards that goal of EU accession.
Thank you. We move on. CETL TV. Yes, you may take the floor. The Ambassador Geer. You are replacing the Euro Ambassador Zbogar. Are you taking any news about Macedonia as regards when the first intergovernmental conference would be held? That is to say, can we somehow foresee the date or the period at which it can be held, and what are the circumstances upon which the organization of its beginning depends? Thank you.
Well, thank you for the question. First of all, can I, if I may, Mr. Prime Minister, just pay tribute to my predecessor, and that I very much share the same enthusiasm and dedication that he took to this job, and have already committed to the Prime Minister to continue very much in the vein that he has already. Concerning the intergovernmental conference, I think I've already mentioned, so the discussions continue in Council. Once there is agreement on the negotiating framework, then the intergovernmental conference will take place, and we very much hope that it will take place as soon as possible. The German presidency of the EU, which there is a rotating presidency, and Germany at the moment occupies that position, has stated several times that it hopes to be able to have an IGC before the end of the year.
We move on. Telma TV. Tamara, you may take the floor. Yes, Tamara, please use the mic. Good morning. I have a question to the Prime Minister Zaev. Specifically, when is the meeting with the Bulgarian Prime Minister Borisov take place, and will you request to withdraw the memorandum? And in the context of the memorandum, if there are no further developments as regards Goce Delchev issue, how are you going to accomplish at the political level for Bulgaria not to block us? Thank you. Thank you for the question. First of all, we are expecting within the period no later than the 10th of November to organize a meeting. Certainly, I wish to pay a visit to the Republic of Bulgaria, the first official visit as a Prime Minister, since we do have issues to discuss. This is precisely the next historic chapter, which is Goce Delchev as a historic figure. And we will touch upon this period of our history. I believe, why am I mentioning the 10th of November? Because on the 10th and 11th, we are expecting to see the Berlin process, where we'll be hosting, together with Bulgaria, the process. And hopefully, we'll be working on the practical preparations, though our offices are working on the preparation of the entire Berlin Process Summit to take place in Sofia. And North Macedonia and Bulgaria will be hosting this summit, and probably we'll be able to discuss this issue. So we're expecting in the coming days to receive some feedback from Bulgaria to be able to sit down and discuss the preparation of the Berlin process. And certainly this open issue, I'm glad that the commissions are doing their job. Hopefully they'll be delivering some options of solutions to the issues, since I've been informed by the Minister Osmani that the commissions are continuing their work because that's very important. However, it's our expectations as soon as possible to sit down and find a solution to this issue and to indeed organize the Berlin process greatly in the constellation of the COVID-19 crisis as well, that is still sustaining. However, we're expecting by the end of this year to have the first intergovernmental conference held. Thank you, Alpha TV. Velimir, you may take the floor. Good morning from me as well. I have two questions to the Prime Minister Zaev. Mr. Prime Minister, in moments where the memorandum is hanging over our heads from our neighbor, you've decided to send a letter to the Patriarch Bartolome to resolve the issue of this nature. Why did you make this decision? Do you think that this is the most appropriate moment, or it's in a way defocusing from the issue with Bulgaria? And once again, in your letter and the letter from the Prime Minister of the country, you've always mentioned our country, our country, our country. You've never mentioning Macedonia or North Macedonia. That's the first question to the Patriarch Bartholomew. And the second issue is the historic issues about Goce Delchev. I'm interested to know what your feeling is as a Prime Minister of this country. What do you think that Goce Delchev is, Macedonian or Bulgarian? Thank you for the questions. First of all, in coordination with the Macedonian Orthodox Church that we've consulted, that following the completion of the elections in the Republic of North Macedonia, it would be good to send a letter to the by Patriarch Bartholomew to continue resolving this issue. As you may know, back then Prime Minister Oliver Spasovski, the current Minister of Interior, we visited Istanbul the beginning of the year and the Patriarchy there, and we discussed this issue, and you can see this call in the content of the letter. Yes, we use our country more frequently. However, we use the term North Macedonia because it's a memorandum of the Prime Minister of the Republic of North Macedonia. However, we wish to use the narrative that the Orthodoxian Church is using in its vocabulary and its talks. And certainly, it's not a defocus. We do have a focus on the open issue with Bulgaria, and we wish to resolve the coming historic period that is ahead of us. The second question, what do you think that Goce Delchev is, Macedonian or Bulgarian? Goce Delchev is a Macedonian revolutionary. However, it is a fact that Bulgarians consider it to be a Bulgarian revolutionary. It is a fact that we do have our town, Delchevo, named after Goce Delchev. In Bulgaria, they have Goce Delchev town. We have monuments everywhere across North Macedonia and Bulgaria. We, together with the Prime Minister Borisov, pay tribute to the monument of Goce Delchev in Sofia, and here at the grave of Goce Delchev in Skopje. And the reality and facts are what we are oftentimes mentioning, that through historic persons and personalities, we should see the grounds for even stronger friendship and cooperation between our two countries, between our two nations, Macedonian and Bulgarian nation. However, we all need to know that if we're avoiding the historic events and put them under the carpet and we avoid discussing them, it won't be a good EU future of the entire Balkans and this part of Southeast Europe. And therefore, we have good neighborly relations, friendship and cooperation and PRESPA agreements in order to be able to resolve these issues in the future. But I once again underline issues that should join our forces and that should mention our shared history that was sacred for the citizens living back in that period, specifically end of 19th century and beginning of 20th century, when the revolutionaries here were fighting for social rights, for freedom, for liberation, for values and everything else. And I think that we can be smart enough through smart solutions that will bring about collaboration, even greater friendship. We will resolve the challenges through which we will dimension the EU future of the entire Southeast European part, especially the Western Balkan countries that wish to become full members of the EU. Thank you. Dear representatives of the media, dear citizens, here we will end our today's press conference. Thank you for your attention and have a nice day.